Hello, and welcome to Bubble Agency's video insight series into the 2025 NAB show. I'm Kim Willsher, Head of Americas at Bubble Agency, and my guest today is Dak Dillon, Editor-in-Chief of NewscastStudio, a leading industry publication that helps readers navigate the future of broadcasting. Welcome, Dak, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
So, my first question for you is, how many NABs have you been to so far?
Enough where I no longer get lost in the convention center. Obviously, it's went through a lot of changes, but I think my first NAB was when I was like 17 years old. So at this point, I've been to Vegas probably for 10 of them, but our publication has been covering the industry for about 20 years now. So.
Right. We started young at 17.
Well, even as a very young person, I was trying to convince my mom to take me to CES and all the other industry trade shows. So I guess I have a thing for trade shows.
Very cool. So what challenges and opportunities do you foresee for companies attending NAB 2025?
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting at a really odd time, right? The economic realities are a bit murky. The vendors I've spoken with candidly have told me that they are down 20 to 25% in terms of sales so far this year. Um, and we're just at a point where we don't know what's going to come next. And on top of that, a lot of companies use this what I jokingly call kind of the nab and pray strategy. Their entire year marketing strategy is we go to NAB and then we pray we get clients. And that's just not how marketing works anymore. To me, NAB is just the beginning of the conversation, and there's so much that happens after it. So it's an interesting time, and I think the show floor is going to be less crowded than it has been. I think there's going to be just less buzz. We're kind of in between hype cycles. Last year was everyone was talking about AI and so excited for, AI, and this year, now we're more to the kind of how AI is a glue. So it's just that thing that helps make things work in media, but it's no longer a buzzword. So it's just going to be an interesting show. And that's not a bad thing. I think that means, there's going to be a lot more frank talk and there's going to be a lot more, you know, real conversation about where we're heading and what this leads to.
Yeah. So if AI isn't going to be such a buzzword as it was last year, what do you think are going to be the top trends at the show?
Well, I mean, AI is still going to be something that everyone's going to want to talk about, right? If we were playing buzzword bingo, it would still be everywhere.
Yeah.
But this year it's more about what are those actual problems that it can solve and not just the hype. So how can it be integrated into an actual workflow? But the reality is right now we're at this moment where remote production and cloud production, I think are back, back in front. They've been in front for a while, but are back to, okay, we've tried cloud in a few different ways, but now we're kind of discovering a hybrid, right? So now we are saying, okay, some things we want on-prem, some stuff we want in the cloud, and we're finding that right balance of what needs to be where. And that's where folks are now finally kind of tuning in their offerings to kind of be around that. So it's not sexy, it's not exciting, it's hybrid technology, but it's about workflows. And this industry is going to survive based on workflows. If workflows don't evolve quick enough, the YouTubers and the TikTokers and other social content creators are going to eat the lunch of traditional broadcasters. So unfortunately, workflows are what's important. I think we're now at the point, unfortunately, where a lot of this just comes down to KPIs and ROI. For a lot of broadcasters, it's no longer about being cool, it's about making sure the return on investment is there. And that's not something that's, exciting to talk about, but it's where we are right now.
Yeah, sure. What's the best way for exhibitors to make noise about their news at NAB?
Yeah, I mean, I think skipping the buzzwords, everyone is state of the art. Everyone is, class leading, whatever paradigm shifting, whatever buzzword you want. The reality is, where are those examples of what it actually does, right? What is a 30-second encapsulation of how your product solves a problem and what is that actual problem it's solving? Is it solving a hypothetical problem or is it solving a real problem that a producer, an engineer, an editor is having? We're at the point now where the supply chain is fairly, it's played out. We know how it works. So everyone knows where those pain points are. And it's about figuring out where can we gain those efficiencies? And I don't want to keep harping on efficiency because it's so boring, but that's where we are. It's at the point where if you want to stand out, you have to have a product that is going to be not just flashy anymore. It's got to be something that's going to make it easier for everybody to get their job done. Because that's where the investment currently is.
Sure, absolutely. And a final question for you. For companies that are looking to expand beyond their traditional customer base, what do you see are some of the big opportunities for them?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've seen large growth over the past few years in non-traditional broadcast. So that is house of worship, corporate video production, higher education, government video, maybe not government so much this year, but it is those sectors that are not your traditional call letter affiliates or national broadcast operations. So at NewscastStudio, we're working on a year-long content push around corporate and non-traditional broadcasters because they do make up about 20-25% of our audience. So that's Fortune 50 companies, whether that's a BlackRock or a Prudential or, LinkedIn itself. These are companies that all have robust video production capabilities and have the same tools, the same equipment, and use the same vendors that a network and affiliate would use. And those folks are the ones that still have budget or still have capital to deploy, for these solutions. And ultimately, they've discovered it's cheaper to build their own studio than to go out and continue to rent a production facility. So there's still fairly good growth coming in that part of of this business. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there as they continue to kind of professionalize their video production to be at that same level of what their competitors are doing, but also what a network is doing. So that gives me a lot of hope that as this industry continues to shift, we're basically democratizing content where now everyone is a video creator and all these new opportunities are arising for vendors and for suppliers to help others figure out how to make better content.
Great. Thank you so much, Dak, for sharing your insights. I look forward to seeing you at NAB next month and also reading your coverage of the show in Newscast Studio.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an interesting year, but that doesn't mean there's not still room for good conversations and hopefully a way to figure out how to keep this industry, creating the content.
Absolutely.